What happens when a quiet, introspective actor, known for swallowing his emotions on screen, walks onto a daytime talk show built on confrontation and decides, for once, not to swallow anything at all? What happens when Adam Driver, the man who usually lets silence do the talking, looks straight across the table at Sunny Hostin and answers a question no one expected him to answer that way? Before we go any further, if you love intense, cinematic celebrity moments like this, subscribe to Stage View right now. Like this video, drop a comment, and stay with us, because this moment didn't just shock the studio. It changed the tone of the room forever. The lights of the View studio glow brighter than usual that morning, reflecting off polished floors and camera lenses like a warning. The applause sign flickers, the audience warming their hands together, buzzing with the familiar anticipation of a safe celebrity appearance. Adam Driver walks out to cheers, tall, slightly awkward, dressed simply, his smile polite but guarded. He nods to Whoopi Goldberg, exchanges greetings with Joy Behar, and finally turns toward Sunny Hostin. Sunny's posture is composed, her expression sharp but welcoming. She's done this thousands of times. She knows how to ask questions that sound gentle but carry weight underneath. Adam sits, folds his hands loosely, and exhales. To most people, it looks like nerves. To those who know him, it looks like preparation. The conversation begins calmly. Films, craft, the discipline of acting. Adam speaks thoughtfully, choosing words with care, his voice steady but restrained. The audience relaxes. This is familiar territory. This is safe. Then Sunny leans in, tilting her head slightly, the way she does when she's about to pivot. "You've spoken before about responsibility," she says, her tone measured. "About how public figures should use their platform. Do you feel you've done enough?" The question lands softly, but it lands. Adam blinks once. There's a pause. A small one. But in television time, it stretches. Cameras subtly adjust. Whoopi glances sideways. Joy raises an eyebrow. "Enough," Adam repeats quietly. Sunny nods. "Enough to speak out. On issues that affect people who don't have your voice." The room tightens. Adam shifts in his chair. His jaw flexes, not in anger, but in thought. When he speaks again, his voice is lower. "I think the idea of enough assumes something that makes me uncomfortable." Sunny doesn't back off. "And what's that?" "That visibility equals authority." A murmur ripples through the audience. This isn't the rehearsed answer. This isn't the expected pivot to a cause or a campaign. Adam leans forward now, elbows resting on his knees, eyes locked on Sunny, not hostile but unflinching. "I didn't grow up being heard," he continues. "I grew up being ignored. And I learned very early that talking isn't the same as helping." Sunny's smile tightens. "But silence can also be a choice, Adam. And sometimes silence protects the people who already have power." The word hangs there. Protects. Adam's breath catches, just slightly. His eyes flicker, not away but inward. When he answers, it's not defensive. It's raw. "I don't think you get to decide what my silence does." The audience gasps. Someone claps once, instinctively, then stops. The studio is dead quiet now. Whoopi straightens in her seat. Sunny's eyebrows lift. "I'm not deciding for you," she says carefully. "I'm asking you to reflect on the impact." Adam nods slowly. "Then let me reflect out loud." He sits back, hands clasped now, knuckles whitening. "I've watched people weaponize outrage," he says. "I've watched Real's suffering become content. And I've watched people with microphones talk over the very voices they claim to defend." Sunny's lips part, ready to respond, but Adam continues, still calm, but something sharper cutting through. "I don't want to be another loud person in the room." The audience erupts into mixed reactions, applause, murmurs, tension crackling like static. Whoopi raises her hand slightly, trying to moderate, but Sunny doesn't let go. "So what you're saying," Sunny presses, "is that people asking you to speak are part of the problem?" Adam turns fully toward her now. His voice doesn't rise. "That's what makes it hit harder. I'm saying that sometimes the loudest voices aren't the bravest. And sometimes the bravest thing is knowing when your voice isn't the one that needs to be heard." The room feels smaller, hotter. Cameras cut to the audience. Faces split between admiration and discomfort. Social media producers backstage are already typing. Sunny inhales deeply. "That sounds noble," she says, "but it also sounds like an excuse." That's when Adam's expression changes. Not anger, not frustration, something closer to hurt. "I've spent years serving," he says quietly. "I've spent years listening, and I don't owe anyone a performance of morality." Silence crashes down like a dropped curtain. Even the applause sign stays dark. Whoopi finally steps in. All right, she says, her voice firm but calm. Let's breathe for a second. But the moment has already escaped the studio. It's alive now. Adam looks down at his hands, then back up, his voice softer. I came here to talk about my work, he says. But if we're going to talk about responsibility, then let's talk about respecting boundaries too. Sunny studies him. For the first time, her expression shifts, not combative, but contemplative. And what if people feel abandoned by that boundary? She asks. Adam nods once. Then I hope they find voices who are ready. And I hope those voices aren't drowned out by mine. The audience breaks into applause, this time louder, steadier. Even Joy nods slowly. The segment moves on, but the air never fully recovers. When the show cuts to commercial, the hosts lean back in their chairs, processing. Adam exhales like he's been holding his breath for years. Backstage, producers whisper. Phones buzz. Clips are already circulating. Adam Driver shuts down Sunny Hostin. Adam Driver refuses to perform. The view goes silent. By the time Adam steps outside into the daylight, the story has exploded. Twitter debates ignite. Commentators pick sides. Some call him courageous. Others call him evasive. Think pieces appear within hours, dissecting every pause, every word, every glance. Sunny addresses it the next day. Calmly, thoughtfully. She stands by her question, but acknowledges the intensity of the exchange. Adam, true to form, says nothing, and that silence speaks louder than anything else. Weeks later, fans are still arguing. Was he right? Was he wrong? Did he dodge responsibility, or redefine it? The clip keeps climbing. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. Endless reactions. And now it's your turn. What do you think? Was Adam Driver setting a necessary boundary, or avoiding a moment that demanded more? Drop your opinion in the comments. Share this video with someone who needs to see it. And subscribe to Stage View for more explosive cinematic stories that pull you right into the moment. Where silence, the cameras come back from commercial, and the applause sign flickers on again. But the sound it pulls from the audience is thinner now, uncertain. The energy in the room hasn't reset. It's fractured. Adam Driver sits in the same chair, same posture, but something about him feels different. The polite distance is gone. What remains is a man who has already crossed a line and knows there's no stepping back over it. Sunny adjusts the papers in front of her, a practiced movement meant to restore rhythm. Her voice, when she speaks, is calm, but there's an edge beneath it now, something sharpened by the realization that this conversation is no longer controlled. Adam, she says, I want to make sure we're being fair here. Adam nods slightly, eyes forward. So do I. Whoopi leans back, fingers steepled, watching them both. Joy glances toward the audience, sensing the shift. This isn't just a discussion anymore. It's a standoff dressed in civility. Sunny continues. No one is asking you to perform morality. But when you say you don't owe anyone your voice, that can sound dismissive to people who feel unheard. Adam's lips press together. He inhales slowly, the kind of breath that steadies rather than prepares to attack. I'm not dismissing them, he says. I'm protecting them. Sunny tilts her head. Protecting them from what? From me. The audience reacts instantly, an audible ripple of surprise. Adam turns slightly toward them now, widening the scope of his words beyond the table. When someone like me speaks, he says, people stop listening to everyone else. My words get amplified. Their words get summarized. Sunny's eyes narrow, not in anger, but in focus. But your platform can open doors. And it can close rooms, Adam responds. The words land heavier than he seems to intend. He realizes it, pauses, then continues anyway. I've been in rooms where people stopped talking because I walked in, he says. Not out of respect. Out of fear of being misquoted, misunderstood, or overshadowed. Sunny leans forward now, elbows on the table. So your solution is to stay quiet? Adam shakes his head. My solution is to listen without turning it into a headline. The phrase headline hits a nerve. Sunny sits back slightly, her expression changing. This is a television show, she says. We talk about things publicly because silence hasn't worked. Adam meets her gaze, unwavering. And sometimes talking hasn't either. The audience grows restless. A few people clap. Others shift in their seats. This isn't comfortable, and comfort was never promised. Whoopi finally interjects, her voice carrying authority earned over decades. Let me ask something, she says. Adam, Do you think there's a difference between speaking for people and speaking with people? Adam nods immediately. Yes. And do you ever speak with people off camera? A pause. Adam's jaw tightens. This question is closer to home. All the time, he says quietly. Sunny exhales, her tone softening, but not surrendering. But the public doesn't see that. Adam's response is instant. They're not supposed to. The studio freezes. Even Whoopi stills. Sunny studies him, searching for something, contradiction, defensiveness, a crack. Instead, she finds resolve. So what happens, Sunny asks, when people look to you and you don't show up? Adam's voice drops. They learn not to look to actors for answers. A low murmur spreads. The statement is almost heretical in a culture built on celebrity voices. Adam feels it. He leans back, shoulders squared, accepting the weight of what he said. I don't want to be a moral shortcut, he continues. I don't want people to think change happens because someone famous said the right thing. Sunny crosses her arms. And you don't think that sounds privileged? The word slices cleanly. Adam doesn't flinch. In fact, his eyes soften. I think pretending I'm not privileged would be dishonest. That admission shifts the room. The tension doesn't ease, but it transforms. Sunny uncrosses her arms slowly. Then why not use that privilege loudly? She asks. Adam looks at her for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice carries something new, emotion pressed thin. Because I've watched loudness become a substitute for action. The audience grows quiet again, hanging on every word. I've watched statements replace sacrifice, he says. And I've watched people confuse being seen with doing good. Sunny opens her mouth, then closes it. For the first time, she doesn't interrupt. Adam continues, more vulnerable now. I grew up thinking if you kept your head down and worked hard, things would change. They didn't. Then I thought if you spoke up, things would change. They didn't either. Sunny's voice is gentler when she responds. So what does? Adam's eyes glisten, not with tears, but with intensity. Consistency, he says. And humility. The word humility echoes. Joy leans forward. But Adam, she says, don't you think people want to know where you stand? Adam turns to her. I think people want to know they're not alone. Sunny nods slowly, absorbing that. The room feels suspended now, as if everyone is aware they're witnessing something rare. Not an argument, but a collision of worldviews. But when you say you don't owe anyone your voice, Sunny says again, carefully, that can feel like abandonment. Adam swallows. This is the hardest part. I understand that, he says. And I hate that it hurts. Sunny's eyes flicker. Then why say it that way? Because it's the truth, Adam replies. And I think people deserve honesty more than comfort. A wave of applause breaks out, stronger now, more unified. The applause sign lights up, but this time it isn't needed. Whoopi nods approvingly. That, she says, is a real conversation. But Sunny isn't done. She leans in one last time. Adam, she asks, do you believe public pressure has any value? Adam considers this carefully. Yes, he says. But pressure without understanding turns people into symbols instead of humans. Sunny meets his eyes. And what are you afraid of becoming? Adam answers without hesitation. A symbol people argue about instead of a person who actually helps. Silence follows, not awkward but heavy with meaning. The segment is ending. Producers gesture frantically. Time is running out, but no one wants to rush this moment. Sunny nods once. I may not agree with you, she says, but I hear you. Adam nods back. That means more than agreement. The camera pulls back as Whoopi thanks Adam for his honesty. Applause fills the studio, this time loud, sustained, conflicted, sincere. But backstage, the real storm is just beginning. As soon as the camera's cut, staff members exhale. Some look stunned, others energized. A producer whispers, that's going everywhere. Adam stands, shakes hands, thanks the hosts. His movements are polite, but his face is distant, already bracing for what comes next. Sunny watches him leave, her expression unreadable. Within minutes, clips are uploaded. Captions are written. Words are sliced into fragments. I don't owe anyone my voice. I don't want to be a moral shortcut. Context begins to thin. And outside the studio, Adam Driver steps into the noise of the city, unaware that the conversation he tried to keep human is about to be turned into a battlefield. The first headline goes live before Adam Driver even reaches his car. It's pushed out with a notification buzz that vibrates across phones, tablets, and laptops all over the world. The words sharp and simplified, stripped of every pause and breath that once gave them meaning. By the time the studio doors close behind him, the moment is no longer his. Adam Driver clashes with Sunny Hostin on The View. Another alert follows seconds later. "I don't owe anyone my voice," actor sparks backlash. Adam slides into the back seat, the door shutting with a dull thud that feels heavier than it should. The city hums outside the tinted windows, unaware, or perhaps already buzzing, about what's begun. He loosens his tie, presses his thumb against his temple, and stares at nothing in particular. He knows this phase well. The part where intention dissolves and interpretation takes over. Inside the studio, the energy hasn't settled either. Sunny remains seated long after the camera's cut, staring at the table where Adam's hands had been moments before. Producers talk around her, voices layered and urgent. "That exchange was electric," one says. "Controversial," another counters. Twitter's already split. Sunny nods absently. She's not thinking about trends. She's replaying his tone. The steadiness. The refusal to flinch. She's interviewed hundreds of people trained to dodge, to charm, to pivot. Adam did none of that. And that unsettles her more than open resistance ever could. Back in the car, Adam's phone buzzes. He doesn't look at it. He already knows what's there. Praise. Anger. Disappointment. Projection. The car pulls into traffic. The driver glances at him in the mirror, curious but professional. Adam closes his eyes briefly. The studio lights still burned into the backs of his eyelids. On social media, the lines are already being drawn. One clip loops endlessly, Adam leaning forward, saying, "I don't owe anyone a performance of morality." The caption reads, "Wow, must be nice." Another clip follows, his softer moment nearly buried beneath bold text. "Sometimes the bravest thing is knowing when your voice isn't the one that needs to be heard." That caption reads, "This." The nuance fractures instantly. Comment sections explode. Supporters call him thoughtful, grounded, principled. Critics accuse him of hiding behind intellect, of intellectualizing inaction, of using silence as a shield. Influencers stitch his words into reaction videos, pausing mid-sentence to roll their eyes or clap dramatically. The View's official account posts a polished clip with neutral framing, but it's already too late. The internet has chosen its angles. Inside a small apartment across the city, a young activist watches the clip on repeat, jaw clenched. "Easy for him to say," she mutters, typing furiously. Across town, a veteran organizer nods slowly, recognizing something familiar in Adam's restraint. In newsrooms, editors smell blood, or brilliance. Opinion pieces are drafted within hours. Adam Driver's silence is a privilege we can't afford. Why Adam Driver's refusal to perform might be exactly what we need. Sunny scrolls through some of them later that night, her expression unreadable. Her mentions are flooded too. Some accuse her of ambushing him. Others thank her for pushing back. She answers none of it. Instead, she replays the moment he said, "I'm protecting them. From me." The words linger. Adam arrives home after sunset. The quiet inside his house is stark, almost shocking after the noise of the day. He sets his keys down, removes his jacket, and stands still for a moment, as if waiting for something to follow him inside. Nothing does. He finally checks his phone. Hundreds of messages. Most unread. A few from people he trusts. One simply says, "You said what you believe." That matters. He exhales, the tension in his shoulders easing just slightly. But the storm outside grows louder. A late-night host jokes about the moment, reducing it to a punchline. A panel debate erupts on cable news, strangers arguing about Adam's responsibility as if he's a case study rather than a person. His face appears in split screens next to words like elitism and integrity. Clips are slowed down, zoomed in, his pauses dissected, his silence psychoanalyzed. Someone digs up an old interview where he spoke passionately about service and sacrifice, framing it as contradiction. Another resurfaced clip shows him declining to speak at an awards show years earlier. Patterns are drawn. Narratives are built. Adam doesn't respond. That choice becomes its own provocation. Why won't he clarify? People demand. Why won't he apologize? Others defend him. He already explained himself. Silence becomes the loudest sound of all. Sunny appears on the show the next morning composed, professional. She addresses the moment without naming Adam directly at first, speaking broadly about public discourse, about accountability, about discomfort. Then she names him. "Yesterday's conversation wasn't about winning," she says. "It was about challenging each other." The camera cuts to the audience. They're listening closely now. I stand by my question, Sunny continues. But I also stand by the importance of hearing the answer, even when it challenges us. That clip circulates too. Some praise her grace. Others accuse her of backtracking. The internet doesn't do middle ground. Meanwhile, Adam goes about his day quietly. He walks. He reads. He avoids screens. He thinks about the people he's worked with who will never trend, never be invited to speak on television, never have their words clipped into 20-second loops. He thinks about the cost of being turned into an argument. By evening, the discourse has hardened. Memes appear, some mocking, some supportive. His face is paired with sarcastic captions. Others turn his words into inspirational graphics. None of it feels real. What feels real is the knot in his chest when he realizes something irreversible has happened. No matter how carefully he spoke, no matter how human he tried to remain, the moment has escaped its context. And yet, beneath the noise, something else stirs. People begin sharing longer clips. Unedited ones. Full exchanges. Comments shift slightly. Some admit they judged too quickly. Others double down. But the conversation deepens, if only in pockets. A teacher shares the clip with students to talk about voice and responsibility. A community organizer references it in a meeting, sparking debate. A young actor watches and feels, for the first time, permission not to perform outrage on demand. Adam doesn't see any of that yet. All he knows is that tomorrow, the fallout will evolve again. Because the final act of this story isn't about what was said on that stage. It's about what the world decides to do with it. By the end of the week, the moment has stopped being a clip and started being a reference point. People no longer say, "Did you see Adam Driver on The View?" They say, "Remember that moment?" The words have detached from the studio and embedded themselves into conversations everywhere. Classrooms, podcasts, dinner tables, group chats. It's no longer about Adam Driver or Sunny Hostin alone. It's about expectation, about voice, about who we demand to speak and why. The audience reaction that day becomes legend in comment sections. Some swear they felt the air shift. Others insist the silence said more than any applause ever could. Fans who were in the studio post shaky videos describing the tension, how it felt like watching two truths collide without either one blinking. One audience member writes, "I came for a celebrity interview. I left questioning my own assumptions." That line gets shared thousands of times. Sunny watches the conversation evolve from a distance now. She gives another interview later that week, measured and thoughtful. She says the exchange reminded her that progress doesn't always come from agreement. Sometimes it comes from friction that forces people to slow down and listen. "I don't regret asking the question," she says. "But I respect that his answer came from a deeply personal place." The internet reacts, as it always does. Some applaud her honesty. Others claim she's softening her stance. The debate refuses to settle, because settling would mean certainty, and certainty is the one thing this moment never offered. Adam remains quiet. Not strategically. Not defiantly. Just quietly. Paparazzi catch him leaving a bookstore. No comment. A reporter calls his name on the street. He nods politely and keeps walking. That restraint becomes part of the story too. Articles appear analyzing Adam Driver's refusal to engage. Some frame it as dignity. Others frame it as avoidance. But something unexpected happens beneath the surface. Organizations and activists begin redirecting the attention. Instead of tagging Adam, they tag each other. Instead of asking him to speak, they amplify voices that have been speaking all along. A few even reference his words, not as defense, but as a challenge. "Are we asking the right people to talk?" one post reads. "Or are we asking the loudest ones?" The question spreads. Weeks later, a longer-form interview Adam recorded months earlier quietly resurfaces. Not trending, not promoted, where he talks about listening, about service without spectacle. People who watch it notice how consistent he sounds. The narrative doesn't flip entirely, but it softens. The moment on The View is no longer a verdict. It's a mirror. Sunny and Adam never speak publicly about each other again. They don't need to. The exchange stands on its own, unresolved and human. In a media world obsessed with winners and losers, that unsettled ending becomes the most radical part. Some viewers still believe Adam should have done more. Others believe he did exactly enough. Many remain unsure, and that uncertainty lingers longer than outrage ever could. In the studio months later, a different guest sits in the same chair. A different question is asked. But producers notice something has changed. Conversations breathe a little more. Interruptions soften. Silence is allowed to exist for an extra second before someone rushes to fill it. That second matters, because what happened that day wasn't a takedown or a triumph. It was a rupture in expectation, a reminder that not every moment is meant to be neatly consumed. And now, after all the noise, all the headlines, all the arguments, the moment belongs to you. Do you think Adam Driver was right to draw that boundary? Or do you believe public figures owe the public more, especially in moments of tension and visibility? Drop your opinion in the comments. I want to know where you stand. If this story made you think, if it pulled you into the room and made you feel the weight of that silence, share it with someone who loves real, unfiltered conversations. And don't forget to subscribe to Stage View for more explosive, cinematic stories where celebrity moments turn into cultural flashpoints. Stories that don't just entertain, but stay with you long after the screen goes dark.